Hi, welcome to another segment of Handy Andy on BPTV. Today we're going to be talking about something everybody likes to enjoy, and that's their deck. So being in the deck outside, being in the summertime, whether it's around the pool or just for picnics, the deck is an important extension to your home. People love to enjoy to spend time there. So sit back and enjoy, and we're going to talk about fixing a deck, cleaning a deck, sealing a deck, the importance of the deck, and keeping it looking good and the best products to use for it. So let's get started with the show. On a deck itself, whether your deck boards are regular 2x4s or whether they're a 1x, meaning the thickness and so forth with it, a lot of times as the deck gets older, your wood starts to deteriorate, it starts to come loose, it starts to pull apart. And a big problem with decking is when the boards itself, they start to turn and warp. What happens is the boards will start to turn up, and that's because the nails, the fasteners, and everything become loose on the decking boards itself. So Stanley makes an interesting tool. This is a tool designed just for straightening boards. Whether it's a 2x4 or a decking board, what it does is actually attaches to the board and helps you with your pressure to roll the board back down. So that way, if you have a board that is peened and turned up, you could take it, you could roll it back, and then you can fasten it. A good part of what this tool does also is it also has a nail puller on it, so if you have those nails that have come loose and they can't just be straightened because they're bent, you could take and hold it and pull it and pry them out. Also, this is not a bad 20-ounce hammer. So it's an all-in-one type of tool for someone who's framing, someone who's decking. And you can use it for straightening, you can use it for lifting, you can use it for pulling nails, and also if need be, you can use it as a hammer. But in talking about what you use to put the boards back down with, there's nails and screws. But when we're doing decking, there's different kinds of nails and different kind of screws that you should be using. Most people are familiar with just a straight type of nail. This nail is actually spiraled. It's a combination of a nail and a screw. So as you're putting this nail down into the decking, it actually will twist and turn, and as you're twisting and turning it, it's locking the board down so the nail doesn't back out too easy. And that's a problem with people just using standard regular type of nails. One, they'll rust. These are galvanized, these won't rust. But also a non-spiral nail in time will just back itself back out. When you have these spiral twist nails, they don't back out too easy. Another type is you can use just actual types of screws for fastening the deck. The screws are a little more time consuming because you need a drill gun to actually fasten the screws in instead of hitting them with the hammer on a nail. But the screws are a lot snugger, a lot tighter. So as you're tightening this screw down in, the grooves of the screw are going to hold a lot more into a deck as compared to a regular nail. But something a little different with your decking screws, one, your drywall screws are a black in color. Those black drywall screws are just an interior type screw. These screws actually have a chemical coating on it so they don't react to the chemicals that are in your decking. Whether it's your womanized lumber, your old type of womanized lumber actually had arsenic in it. They don't use the arsenic or the creosote anymore. It's a different chemical in there to preserve the wood, but they don't react with the screws if you're using the exterior screws. The other thing with the deck screw, these actually have a cut on the bottom of it. So what that cut does, it actually helps to grip and turn and get that screw started so it goes into the deck. So whether you're using the screws, which I would prefer, or you're using your decking nails, use your exterior grade ones so that they don't rust, they don't decompose, they don't pull themselves out. So you're going to spend all this time straightening the deck. You want to make sure that what you're going to straighten it with is actually going to hold. After you get your deck all straightened and fixed in, then you should putty any big gouges, big cracks. The big thing to realize is there's an exterior grade putty. You don't want to use a regular interior grade putty because it won't last on the painting, the decking, the sun, the UV, the temperature changes, and any of your type of putties, they're just a standard type of natural color of wood, so it's going to blend in fairly well with the decking. But the most important part is to make sure that you're using an exterior grade product. So you've straightened it, you've puttied it, now you want to prepare the wood, and preparing the wood is really just a form of sanding it, whether you're just sanding it by hand, getting a block and wrapping the sandpaper around it, or you're using any kind of power sander. You can use a finish sander, you can use a belt sander, you can use an actual floor sander. The floor sanders are going to do an excellent job very quickly, but it's more of a tool you're going to rent. People don't own their own floor type sanders. Floor sanders come in two ways. They come in a drum sander, which has a really wide piece of paper that just rolls up over the drum. That's your most preferred for any type of decking. You're carrying the drum sanders up onto the deck. This machine weighs about 150 pounds, so the hardest part is getting it up on the deck, but then you could quickly sand the entire deck by using the drum sander. Once everything has been sanded, no matter which method you use to sand it, now it comes the time that you really want to clean the deck. And in cleaning the deck, I brought a couple different products, your Deck Brightener or Simple Green. Simple Green is probably my favorite all-purpose type of cleaner. You can use Simple Green. It's the most preferred on a composite deck. So if you have that Trex deck, your composite deck, where you don't need to do any of this kind of fixings, but you're looking to just clean it, Simple Green is a wonderful all-purpose organic-based cleaner that's not going to kill all the plants and grass and everything that you have around the deck itself. This is concentrated in a gallon. You dilute it, you scrub the deck down, you hose it off, and you're all done. If you're looking at the wooden decks, depending on the condition of it, these deck brighteners are a powder. You mix about a cup with a gallon of water, then you scrub the deck down with any kind of a scrub brush. What I brought is just a softer bristle and a harder bristle type of scrub brush. Both of these take a regular threaded handle, so you're not down on your hands and knees. You can get just a regular 4-foot or 5-foot broom handle, put them in there, get your solution down, whether you're using a tank sprayer or just a bucket. Dip your brushes in there and start scrubbing away. If the decks are real bad, you want a stiffer, harder bristle. If the deck isn't too bad, or if you're cleaning your composite decking, you want the finer type of bristle brushes with it. But what the Deck Brightener does, the Deck Brightener is a non-bleach based type of cleaner. Like I said, you mix about a cup per gallon of water. You scrub the deck down, but with it being a non-bleach type product, once again, it's not going to hurt all the plants and grass and everything around the deck like a bleach-based cleaner would. A lot of people start using their own deck cleaners. They use a cup of bleach with a cup of trisodium phosphate in a gallon of water. That's fine if your deck is over concrete or brick or block, but if it's over top of plants using a bleach-based substance, you are taking a good chance of actually damaging or killing the plants itself. So using one of these safer type products, the Deck Brightener is more preferred if you have a lot of the black marks, you have any of the moss, you have a lot of discoloring and so forth on the deck itself. The Deck Brightener is going to do a little better job, maybe even a lot better job on the severe type decks than what Simple Green is. Simple Green would be a light cleaner, everyday cleaner, or the cleaner for, let's say, the Trex type of decking again. But now you've got the deck cleaned, you've scrubbed it down and you've rinsed it real well. Now you have to let that deck set. The worst thing you can do is seal it too quickly when you have too much water in those boards. Once you have cleaned that deck, I really recommend you let that deck sit for 1 to 2 days. Letting it sit for those 2 days, you're going to make sure that all that moisture that you've put into that wood by scrubbing it down and using the hoses and so forth is totally out of the wood. If you take your sealants and you put it on top when the deck is still moist, one, the sealants aren't going to stick, and two, that moisture still has to evaporate out of the wood, and when it evaporates out of the wood, then what's going to happen is it's going to pull your finish that you just put on, it's going to pull that finish back off again. So make sure that that deck is clean and make sure that it is very well dry. Now let's get into some of the coatings itself on it. I'm a fan of Cabot. Cabot's probably my number one brand that I like. I like it because of its life, its durability, its strength. A couple other brands that I find are good are the CWF UV and the FP. These are all name brand type products, but with the Cabot, you're talking about a $40 a gallon product. You're talking into the mid-30s. You're $30 to $35 for your CWF and your F&P product. Those brands that you see on the market that are in that $10 price range, you're getting what you pay for on it. You're doing all this work to prepare a deck, then you're going to go out and buy a very inexpensive coating to put on it that is only going to last you not even a year. So use Cabot, use one of the better brands. I look at about a 5-year life that I get on my deck when I'm using the Cabot type products. Now with the Cabot, there's lots and lots of different colors that you can get with it. There's hundreds of shades. The big thing you got to decide now is if you're going to be using a solid color or you're going to be using a semi-transparent product. Now what to know about them is on your solid color type products. These are solid color samples. On a solid color product, if your deck is really discolored, really disfigured, a lot of putty patch marks, a lot of the old stains that you can't get off and you can't blend a deck in, your solid colors cover like a coat of paint. They're a stain, so they're very thin, so they soak into the wood and they protect the wood. So it's a lot better to use a solid color stain than it would be for just a regular coat of paint. And the solid color stain is going to hide all those imperfections. So whether you pick red, white, blue, brown, pink, yellow, red, any of the colors you pick, you can get in a solid color, and that's going to cover all the imperfections on the older type decks. But if you want the appearance of the wood grain, then that's where you use the semi-transparents. On the semi-transparents, there's still all the different colors that you can get with it, but on a semi-transparent, it covers like a regular coat of stain does. It's the thin product that soaks into the wood, but it shows all the wood grain. So it's going to show the grain, it's going to show the age, it's going to show the designs, it's going to make the deck look like a nice wooden deck. So if the deck isn't too bad, I like to use the semi-transparent instead of a solid color because it gives you a nicer appearance to the deck itself. It's just sometimes you can't go to the semi-transparents, and that's why you're looking for the solid color on it. Now that you've picked your product, now that you've picked your color, it's time to apply the product itself. Some people might like to use your pump sprayers. Your pump sprayers itself, if you do use your pump sprayer and putting it on, what you're going to find is you use a lot less product with the pump sprayer, but in using a lot less product, your deck is a lot less sealed. I'm a fan of just painting it on. I don't even like to roll it. I like to paint it on. It's a little bit harder and it takes a little bit more time to do it. But once again, you've spent 2-3 days preparing the deck. Why do you want to, at the very end of the product, on the project, do you want to go to something that's not going to be sealing the deck as good? So you brushing it on, you're going to have a good even coat. You're going to have the whole deck covered. You're going to have the whole deck sealed. You're not going to have to worry about skimping on the product and have it lighter in one area, darker in the other area. And that goes to the products that I have here. This is your regular deck pump sprayer, and a lot of people do use it on the decks. It's okay for maybe putting a cleaning product on, but like I said, I'm not a fan of using it for actually putting the clear coat or the sealants on, because you end up getting an uneven surface or you end up not putting enough on the deck itself. So if you do want to use this, just make sure you're watching your coverage on it and you're putting a good heavy coat of the sealant over top of the whole deck. Now the other thing I brought is a pressure washer. Take a little bit of time. I want to tell you about pressure washers, what they do, what they don't do, and the damage that can be done with a pressure washer. I love pressure washers. I use pressure washers, but I do not use, nor will I recommend using pressure washers on wooden decks. Pressure washers are made for those hard surfaces. They're made for the brick. They're made for the block. They're made for concrete. They're made for siding. They're made for cleaning hard surfaces. If you use a pressure washer on a wooden deck itself and the pressure is too high, what will happen is you're going to damage the wood a little bit more, and maybe even a lot more. People think more pressure is better. It's going to clean it quicker. It's going to clean it faster. What you'll do with the pressure washer is you're going to splinter the wood. That's just way too much pressure for wood. Wood is a soft substance. Wood is already aging. You're already getting cracks and crevices in it. And what the pressure washer is going to do is just blow apart that wood. So if you have to use a pressure washer to clean your deck, use an electric instead of a gas, because an electric pressure washer is going to be a lot lower PSI. Most of your electric pressure washers are 15 to 1800 PSI. That's the max you want to use on any type of a wooden surface. Your gas pressure washers are in the 2500 to 3000 PSI. You would have to tone that pressure down as low as you can to get it under 2000 PSI. Also, when you're using a pressure washer, make sure the tip is wide. Don't use those laser type sighting tips on it, because then that's just going to bore a bigger hole into the deck itself. So use a wide tip on it to do a wider clearing path, and you want to keep that tip a good 12 to 18 inches away from the surface. So if you follow all the precautions on using a pressure washer on the deck, go ahead and do it, but you really have to know what you're doing, or at least you really have to be careful with what you're doing so you're not doing more damage than you are good with it. So to recap, you got to fix the deck itself. So that's taking the boards, that's straightening the boards, that's putting the proper nails, putting the proper screws down. You want to fix the deck before you do anything. And also, as you're doing it, go over the whole deck and tighten every nail, reset every nail, tighten every screw, recess every nail on it. That way, when you get into the sanding, you're not ripping up all that sandpaper. So the prep work is the hardest part of any good project, and it's definitely the hardest part of this kind of project. So setting the nails, setting the screws, putting in new screws, putting in new nails, straightening all the boards, then making sure you're using a good exterior grade putty to fix any of the bad crack areas, and then sanding. Sanding is going to be a very important part of this project. A lot of the decks, as they splinter, you don't want splinters when you're on a wooden deck, because most people are out there in the summertime in bare feet. So you want to make sure your deck is nice and smooth. So sanding it, whether by hand, whether it's with an electric sander, a finish sander, a palm sander, or a drum sander, sanding the deck down, getting all that sawdust off, then cleaning it with the deck brighteners, cleaning it with the simple green, having the different scrub brushes to it. Then you're going to get a nice clean deck. Then you got to rinse it real well, and then please make sure that you let that deck dry for at least 2 days. The hotter, the more humid, the less moisture in the air, the better it's going to be. And then you go to picking the product to put on the deck itself. Your solid color to cover everything, your semi-transparent, which is what you're going to go and see the wood grain through it, and do yourself a favor and pick the better products. That way your deck is going to stay sealed for a good 5-6 years instead of having to do it every year. So following the steps, picking the right products, taking the time doing it right, you're going to end up with a really nice looking deck, and you're going to be able to enjoy it throughout the summer and maybe even into the winter. So enjoy the day, enjoy the summertime, and enjoy your time out on that beautiful deck that you just did. Congratulations. Appreciate you watching this segment of Handy Andy on BPTV. And stay tuned in future months and see what the new shows are. Thanks again.